It's funny, looking back, how certain things lodge themselves in your memory, becoming almost mythical. For me, it was always the silver blur. Growing up, my bedroom walls were plastered with posters, not of pop stars or athletes, but of sleek, impossibly beautiful machines. And among them, one stood out, a guardian of dreams, a symbol of everything sophisticated and daring. It was a car, of course, but not just any car. It was the ultimate expression of automotive artistry, a machine that seemed to hum with a silent power, promising adventure and a touch of danger. I remember tracing its lines with my finger on the glossy paper, the cool surface a stark contrast to the feverish excitement it ignited within me. It represented a world I could only glimpse through magazines and on the silver screen, a world of fast cars, exotic locations, and a certain effortless coolness. It was more than just metal and engine, it was a promise of something extraordinary, a childhood fascination that never quite faded. This wasn't just a fleeting interest, it was a deep-seated yearning, a silent ambition that whispered in the back of my mind for years, a reminder of a dream that felt as distant as the stars. The sheer elegance, the menacing yet refined silhouette, the subtle roar that I could only imagine, it all combined to create an indelible impression. It was the personification of aspiration, a tangible representation of a future I hoped might one day be within reach, however improbable it seemed at the time. This specific machine, in its breathtaking form, became the benchmark for automotive excellence in my young mind, a benchmark that few others could ever hope to match. It was the embodiment of a fantasy, a secret shared only with myself, a constant reminder of the power of desire and the enduring allure of the unattainable. It's surreal, truly, to be standing here today, to be the one to introduce this magnificent creation, this very dream that once seemed as distant as a star. For so long, it was merely an image in my mind, a whisper of what could be, fueled by countless hours spent sketching, imagining, and, yes, working. The journey wasn't a straight line, not by a long shot. There were detours, dead ends, and moments of crippling self-doubt that made me question if this aspiration was just a childish fantasy that had outstayed its welcome. I remember distinctly the gnawing fear that I was chasing something impossible, that the intricate engineering and the sheer elegance I admired were simply beyond my grasp, a privilege reserved for others. My path here was paved with a blend of sheer tenacity and, I'll admit, a healthy dose of good fortune. I poured every spare moment, every ounce of energy into understanding the mechanics, the artistry, the very soul of machines like this. There were times I felt like I was deciphering an ancient language, struggling with concepts that felt impossibly complex. I recall a particularly frustrating period where a seemingly simple design flaw led to weeks of setbacks. It was easy then to fall into the trap of believing I wasn't cut out for this, that my ambitions outweighed my capabilities. I made decisions that, in retrospect, were perhaps too risky, too unconventional, driven by a desperate need to accelerate progress. There were moments I felt overwhelmed, tempted to settle for something less, to abandon the pursuit of this singular vision. But that image, that indelible impression from my youth, always pulled me back. It was a constant reminder of what I truly desired, what I felt capable of achieving if I just pushed a little harder, learned a little more. Sharing this now, it's not just about showcasing a remarkable piece of engineering, it's about illustrating that the seemingly impossible can, with unwavering dedication and perhaps a touch of serendipity, become a reality. My motivation was always to prove to myself, and perhaps to others who harbor similar dreams, that the boundaries we perceive are often self-imposed. My expectations, initially, were simply to get close to this ideal, to create something that evoked a fraction of the awe I felt. The reality, however, has surpassed even those wildest hopes, bringing with it a responsibility I never fully anticipated. The notification arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, a seemingly innocuous alert that, in hindsight, felt like a seismic shift. It was a listing for a rare variant, a specific iteration I'd only encountered in hushed whispers and grainy online photos, posted on a platform I'd scoured for months with little success. My breath hitched. It was real. The image, though slightly out of focus, was undeniably it. A surge of disbelief washed over me, a cold wave of "this can't be happening." This was the very pinnacle of my pursuit, the embodiment of what I'd been working towards. Then, excitement, sharp and electrifying, pulsed through my veins, igniting a fire of possibility. But beneath the exhilaration, a knot of anxiety began to tighten. What if it was a scam? What if the condition was misrepresented? What if someone else snagged it before I could even formulate a response? The fear of failure, of this perfect chance slipping through my fingers, was a tangible weight. The initial shock gave way to a flurry of activity. My decision-making process became a frantic, yet methodical, dance. First, the immediate deep dive, scrutinizing every detail of the listing, cross-referencing specifications with my extensive research. I pored over forums, contacted collectors who had previously owned similar models, and even reached out to individuals who specialized in authentication for this particular niche. Their insights were invaluable, offering a clearer picture of market value, common pitfalls, and what to look for in terms of authenticity. I sought advice from a seasoned mentor, a collector whose wisdom I deeply respected, detailing the situation and my initial assessment. Their pragmatic perspective helped temper my enthusiasm with a healthy dose of caution, reminding me to consider all potential downsides. Several key factors ultimately steered my choice. The rarity of this specific configuration was paramount. It was the missing piece, the ultimate expression of what I was seeking. The seller's reputation, while not extensive, had a few positive endorsements from other collectors that provided a sliver of confidence. Furthermore, the price, while significant, was within the realm of what my diligent saving and planning had prepared me for. This wasn't a reckless impulse, but a calculated risk, informed by countless hours of study and a network of trusted advisors who helped confirm the legitimacy of the opportunity. The confluence of these elements, the perfect alignment of rarity, perceived trustworthiness, and financial feasibility, tipped the scales decisively in favor of pursuit. It wasn't a pristine specimen pulled from a museum vault. Far from it. The moment I laid eyes on it, a wave of both anticipation and mild trepidation washed over me. Its exterior, once perhaps a vibrant hue, was now a muted tapestry of faded paint, a testament to years, perhaps decades, of exposure. Scratches, like fine scars, crisscrossed its surface, some shallow enough to catch the light, others deeper, hinting at more significant past encounters. A persistent layer of dust clung to every crevice, a soft, powdery blanket that smelled faintly of old leather and something vaguely metallic, a scent that spoke of stillness and disuse. The chrome accents, once gleaming like polished silver, were now dulled and mottled with tiny pinpricks of rust, particularly around the edges where moisture had undoubtedly found a home. Opening the door felt like unearthing a time capsule. The interior was a study in muted tones and worn textures. The seats, upholstered in a material that had long since surrendered its original suppleness, were creased and flattened, showing the distinct impressions of countless journeys. A faint, almost sweet aroma of stale air mingled with the subtle ghost of cigarettes and something else, perhaps spilled coffee from a forgotten moment. The dashboard, while intact, bore the marks of time, a few hairline cracks in the plastic, a yellowing of the once bright indicator lights. Even the steering wheel, though still offering a solid grip, felt smooth and slightly slick from the oils of many hands. Functionally, the issues were equally apparent. The engine, when coaxed to life, coughed and sputtered with a hesitant rhythm, a far cry from the smooth purr one might expect. It sounded tired. There were whispers of oil leaks, a faint dampness beneath the chassis that couldn't be ignored. The brakes exhibited a concerning sponginess, requiring a firm press that felt less like controlled deceleration and more like a plea for mercy. Shifting gears was a deliberate, sometimes grudging affair, each clunk and grind a stark reminder of its age and wear. It was a machine that had clearly seen better days, a veteran of many battles, now showing its age with every audible complaint. Despite this litany of imperfections, the decision to proceed felt surprisingly clear. It wasn't about owning something flawless, it was about recognizing potential. The underlying structure, the core of its being, remained sound. The engine, though noisy, possessed a raw, untamed power that resonated with me. The body, despite its blemishes, had a timeless elegance, a classic form that spoke of a bygone era. It was a project, yes, a labor of love, but one where the rewards promised to far outweigh the effort. The imperfections were not deal-breakers, but rather opportunities. They represented a chance to restore, to rejuvenate, to breathe new life into something that had so much character and so much story left to tell. It was a whisper of what it once was, and a promise of what it could become. The initial stages of the restoration were deceptively straightforward. The gleaming chrome accents, dulled by time, responded beautifully to a meticulous polish. It felt like waking up a sleeping giant, revealing its inherent grandeur. Yet, as we delved deeper, the true extent of the neglect began to surface. The interior, once plush and inviting, was a patchwork of faded fabrics and brittle plastics. The dashboard, a complex assembly of dials and switches, looked like it had weathered a small hurricane. One particularly vexing challenge was the delicate wiring. Years of exposure had rendered much of it fragile and prone to snapping. My initial attempts at repair resulted in sparks and a faint smell of burnt plastic, much to my frustration. This led me to seek out an old acquaintance, a retired electrical engineer named Mr. Henderson. He possessed an almost uncanny ability to decipher ancient schematics and a patience that seemed infinite. He'd chuckle at my amateurish efforts, his eyes twinkling behind his thick spectacles, before patiently guiding me through the labyrinth of wires, explaining the purpose of each connector with the clarity of a seasoned professor. Then came the engine. It was a magnificent piece of engineering, but it refused to hum to life. We spent days, Mr. Henderson and I, poring over it. We cleaned carburetors until our hands were stained with grease, adjusted timings that felt like arcane rituals, and replaced components that crumbled at our touch. One afternoon, after what felt like the 100th unsuccessful attempt, as a wave of despair washed over me, Mr. Henderson noticed a tiny, almost invisible crack in a fuel line. It was a minuscule flaw, easily overlooked, but it was the culprit. The fix was simple, yet finding it felt like discovering a hidden treasure. The moment the engine finally sputtered to life, a deep, resonant rumble filling the garage, was a moment of pure elation. We both just stood there, grinning, the shared victory palpable. Not all encounters were as technically focused. There was Maria, a seamstress with hands as skilled as a surgeon's, who brought the worn upholstery back to its former glory. Her intricate stitching and keen eye for detail transformed the tired seats into plush sanctuaries. She hummed softly as she worked, her stories of restoring antique gowns weaving a tapestry of her own quiet dedication to her craft. One funny incident involved a mischievous squirrel that decided the open cabin was the perfect place to stash its winter hoard, leading to a comical chase around the garage involving a broom and a very surprised rodent. It was a reminder that even in the midst of meticulous work, life, in its myriad forms, continues to surprise. The moment the final polish dried, revealing a gleam that hadn't seen the light of day in decades, a wave of profound satisfaction washed over me. It was more than just seeing a project completed, it was witnessing a resurrection. My fingertips traced the smooth, cool surface, each imperfection now a testament to its long journey, a story etched into its very being. A quiet pride swelled in my chest, a silent acknowledgement of the countless hours, the meticulous care, and the unwavering belief that this beauty could be unearthed. Yet, beneath that elation, a tremor of apprehension lingered. The fear that a single misplaced touch, a stray droplet of rain, or an unforeseen malfunction could undo all that painstaking effort was a tangible presence, a shadow that danced at the edge of my joy. That first proper outing was an adventure in itself. The hum of the engine, a resonant melody after so much silence, felt like a heartbeat returning. As we navigated the winding roads, the world outside seemed to blur into a vibrant panorama, a stark contrast to the static confines of the workshop. A particular memory that stands out is a spontaneous picnic by a remote lake. The sun was setting, casting an ethereal glow on the water, and we sat in comfortable silence, the gentle lapping of waves against the shore providing a soothing soundtrack. It wasn't just about the destination, it was about the journey, the feeling of freedom and liberation that this restored treasure offered. There was also a memorable evening at a local gathering, where the object of my affection drew admiring glances and sparked conversations with strangers who shared a similar appreciation for the past. Hearing their stories, their memories evoked by the sight of it, added another layer to its narrative. It was a shared experience, a bridge connecting different generations through a tangible piece of history. Each successful excursion, each moment of shared wonder, chipped away at the lingering anxiety, replacing it with a growing confidence and a deeper connection to the object itself. It was no longer just a restored item, it was a companion, a vessel of memories yet to be made. The allure of the silver arrow, as it had affectionately become known, was undeniable, yet a sober assessment of its capabilities was crucial. Compared to the more modern iterations, its acceleration was undoubtedly languid, a gentle nudge rather than a forceful shove into speed. Braking, too, required foresight and a generous dose of patience, a stark contrast to the instantaneous stoicism of contemporary systems. Its fuel consumption, while not ruinous, was certainly more demanding than its sleeker, more efficient contemporaries, a noticeable drain on resources that necessitated careful planning for longer journeys. These were not minor quibbles, they were inherent limitations of its era, a testament to the engineering compromises made decades ago. Yet, to dismiss it based solely on these metrics would be to miss the very essence of its charm. Its unique, almost sculptural design, a symphony of chrome and polished metal, possessed a timeless elegance that newer models, often striving for aerodynamic anonymity, struggled to replicate. The tactile feedback from the steering wheel, a direct conversation between the driver and the road, was an experience lost in the power-assisted, often numb, controls of today. There was a certain visceral connection, a feeling of being truly in command of a powerful, mechanical entity, that was profoundly satisfying. Its distinctive engine note, a deep, resonant rumble that announced its presence with a dignified growl, was a melody that stirred the soul in a way no modern synthesized sound could ever achieve. The drawbacks, therefore, were not insurmountable flaws but rather characteristic quirks that demanded a different kind of engagement. They were not deficiencies, but rather opportunities to learn, to anticipate, and to appreciate the nuances of its operation. The extra effort required for its management fostered a deeper understanding and respect for its engineering, turning mundane tasks into a ritual of care and attention. Each successful negotiation of a winding road, each smooth gear change executed with precision, was a small victory, a confirmation of the bond being forged. The anxiety that had initially accompanied its restoration and use gradually faded, replaced by a quiet confidence and an ever-growing sense of shared history and burgeoning adventure. It was, in essence, more than just a meticulously restored piece of machinery, it was a confidant, a silent partner ready to embark on new chapters of discovery. The decision to part ways with the object of my affection, the culmination of so much labor and burgeoning memory, was not made lightly. It was a slow dawning, a realization that the space it occupied, both physically and emotionally, was becoming a bottleneck rather than a reservoir of joy. Financially, while not the sole driver, the upkeep, the specialized storage it demanded, and the occasional unexpected repair had begun to cast a shadow. It wasn't a burden, not yet, but it was a growing consideration, a whisper of practicality in the grand symphony of sentiment. Logistically, its sheer presence required a dedication of space and attention that I found myself increasingly unable to provide with the depth it deserved. It was a magnificent entity, demanding a certain environmental control and a dedicated corner of my life, a corner that was becoming crowded with other emerging priorities and aspirations. The sheer effort involved in its occasional outings, though always rewarding, was beginning to feel more like an undertaking than a spontaneous adventure, a subtle but significant shift in my perception. Emotionally, this was the most complex layer. A profound sadness did indeed settle in, a melancholic ache for the shared moments, for the whisper of history it held, and for the potential adventures that now seemed to be slipping through my fingers. There was a pang of regret, a fleeting thought of what if, of whether I was truly ready to let go of something so intrinsically linked to a period of intense personal growth and quiet triumph. It felt akin to saying goodbye to a trusted friend, one who had witnessed and accompanied crucial junctures. However, alongside the sorrow, a sense of acceptance began to bloom. It was the quiet understanding that for the object to truly thrive, for it to continue its journey and fulfill its purpose, it needed a different custodian, someone who could offer it the undivided attention and active engagement that my current life stage was preventing me from giving. Holding on to it out of pure sentimentality, when its needs were no longer fully met, felt almost selfish. The time had come to allow it to find its next chapter, to imbue another with the same sense of wonder and possibility it had offered me. The process of finding its new home was approached with as much care as its restoration. I didn't want it to simply disappear into a faceless transaction. I sought someone who resonated with its spirit, who understood its history and appreciated its unique character. After careful consideration and a few introductory meetings, I found that individual. Their eyes lit up with the same spark I had felt all those years ago. They spoke of future journeys, of shared experiences, and of continuing the legacy of care. Handing over the keys, so to speak, was bittersweet. There was a final wave of wistfulness, but it was ultimately overshadowed by the profound peace of knowing it was going to a place where it would be cherished and continue to create its own stories. The object of my desire, a faded silhouette in my mind for years, eventually became a tangible presence, and its impact on my life was nothing short of transformative. It wasn't merely an acquisition, it was a journey into myself. The initial acquisition was born from a yearning, a deep-seated fascination that had simmered for a long time. Owning it, however, was the beginning of a profound education. The sheer condition in which it arrived demanded a level of dedication I hadn't anticipated. It was a testament to time and neglect, a stark reminder that even the most beautiful things require constant attention. This is where the lessons truly began to unfold. Perseverance became my constant companion. There were countless late nights spent meticulously cleaning, carefully assessing, and patiently working through each intricate detail. Small victories, like a stubborn bolt finally yielding or a dull surface regaining its luster, fueled my resolve. Each challenge overcome was a step forward, reinforcing the belief that persistent effort, no matter how small, yields significant results. Patience, too, was an indispensable virtue. The restoration was not a race, but a marathon of incremental progress. Rushing the process would have been detrimental, leading to mistakes and undoing precious work. I learned to embrace the ebb and flow of the project, understanding that some tasks simply couldn't be expedited. It was in these moments of waiting, of allowing time to do its part in certain chemical reactions or adhesive setting, that a deeper appreciation for the process itself began to bloom. And with patience came gratitude. I became profoundly grateful for the skilled hands that had originally crafted this object, for the enduring materials that had withstood the passage of time, and for the opportunity to be its custodian, even for a season. The feeling of holding a piece of history, of bringing it back to a semblance of its former glory, was an immense privilege. I began to see it not just as a possession, but as a legacy, a story waiting to be continued. There are memories etched into my mind that I will always hold dear. The first time it truly began to resemble its former self, after days of painstaking polishing, was a moment of pure elation. Or the day I successfully coaxed a vital component back into perfect working order, a testament to hours of research and delicate maneuvering. These weren't just tasks completed, they were milestones in a personal evolution. The experience of possessing and, more importantly, restoring this object has fundamentally reshaped me. I emerged from this endeavor with a newfound respect for craftsmanship, a deeper understanding of the value of dedication, and a quiet confidence in my ability to overcome obstacles. It taught me that beauty can be found in the most dilapidated forms, and that with enough care and commitment, even the most forgotten things can be revitalized and cherished. It was more than just bringing an object back to life, it was about discovering a new dimension within myself. Looking back, would I embark on this journey again, knowing the torrent of challenges and the emotional and financial toll it would exact? The answer, surprisingly, is a resounding yes. The experience, in its entirety, has yielded dividends far beyond any monetary valuation. The sheer grit it demanded, the relentless problem-solving, and the moments of profound doubt were crucible fires that forged a resilience I never knew I possessed. Each scraped knuckle, each late-night research session, each unexpected expense was a lesson, etching itself into my understanding of perseverance. The satisfaction of seeing the culmination of that effort, of transforming something from a state of neglect to one of pride and admiration, is a reward that transcends the initial investment. For anyone harboring a similar dream, a yearning for a unique acquisition that requires a significant commitment, I offer this counsel: research is paramount. Dive deep, not just into the aesthetics but into the history, the common pitfalls, and the typical restoration costs associated with your object of desire. Forums, enthusiast groups, and specialized publications are invaluable resources. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Most owners are happy to share their knowledge. When it comes to negotiation, arm yourself with that research. Understand the fair market value, but also be prepared to walk away if the price doesn't align with your budget and the perceived effort involved. Remember, the initial purchase price is often just the first step. Restoration is where the real magic and the true test of your resolve lie. Break down the process into manageable stages. Prioritize the essential fixes that ensure functionality and structural integrity before moving on to cosmetic enhancements. Patience is your greatest ally. There will be setbacks, moments when you feel utterly defeated, but persistence will see you through. Seek out skilled craftspeople for tasks beyond your capabilities, but don't shy away from learning new skills yourself. The sense of accomplishment is immeasurable. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and each small victory builds momentum. The beauty you uncover will be all the more cherished for the effort you poured into its rediscovery. The object of my desire, this complex tapestry of gears and polished metal, has been more than just a project. It's been a profound mirror reflecting my deepest values. In the meticulous process of restoration, I discovered that patience isn't merely a virtue, but a fundamental building block of any meaningful endeavor. My initial impatience, the urge to rush through stages, quickly gave way to an appreciation for the slow, deliberate unfolding of each step. This taught me to prioritize thoroughness over speed, quality over convenience. It illuminated how much I value craftsmanship and the dedication it takes to bring something beautiful back to life, a stark contrast to the disposable culture often embraced. This pursuit has definitively clarified my priorities. I now understand that true fulfillment stems not from fleeting acquisition, but from deep engagement and the development of enduring skills. The hum of the engine, once a distant dream, is now the very sound of my values realized. The journey has been a testament to the power of pursuing dreams, no matter how distant they may seem. There were countless moments of doubt, times when the sheer complexity of the task threatened to overwhelm me. Yet, each salvaged part, each problem solved, fueled a growing sense of capability. This project has irrevocably shown me that the perceived unattainable is often just a series of smaller, conquerable challenges. Seeking out experts for specialized tasks was not a sign of weakness, but an acknowledgement of the power of collaboration and collective knowledge. Conversely, learning to solder, to diagnose intricate electrical issues, to understand the nuances of an old combustion system, these were victories that resonated deeply, proving that personal growth is an inherent reward. The accomplishment was not just in the finished product, but in the person I became through the process of its creation. Looking ahead, the road stretches out, filled with the promise of new horizons. The satisfaction derived from this endeavor has instilled a profound sense of hope and optimism for what lies beyond. It's a reminder that life, much like this intricate machine, is a continuous process of learning, adapting, and refining. The lessons learned here extend far beyond the garage. They are applicable to every facet of life. The challenges may change, the specific components may differ, but the underlying principles of perseverance, dedication, and the pursuit of passion remain constant. I am filled with an unshakable belief that by embracing these principles, by continuing to chase the sparks of inspiration, and by never shying away from the work required, even the most ambitious aspirations can be transformed into tangible realities. The future, in my eyes, is not a predetermined path, but an open expanse waiting to be shaped by courage and unwavering belief.